Krystal Everdeen, and in honor of today being Independence Day, I'm going to show you how you can make a crochet bag inspired by Captain America's shield. Now before we begin, I just wanted to share a bit of insight into my experience creating this bag. I knew I wanted to do something special for the 4th of July, and I've been going to Disney a lot, so I thought this would be a fun, relatively easy project to make a video on. And this is a fairly easy tutorial to follow. However, because I did not have a tutorial or any guidance at all, I made many mistakes. And I just wanted to share this with you because you may get frustrated that a project isn't going as smoothly as you thought it would, and you may watch my tutorials and think that everything worked out so seamlessly on my first try, and it may seem that I just know what to do and I make projects so quickly. However, most of the time this is not the case. This video may be about 20 minutes long, but this project took me about 7 hours to make, although it probably should have just taken me 2. But it took so dang long for me because I would crochet whole sections that I didn't even need. I tried to make a crochet star. I spent time figuring out how to crochet a star because I didn't know how. Then I tried figuring out how to make a circle surrounding that crochet star, and well, the first couple hours of me working on this was just disastrous. So yeah, don't give up if something doesn't work out at first. Keep on trying and eventually you'll find a way. Okay, so on to the actual tutorial. I used 3 different colors of yarn for this project: blue yarn from the brand Red Heart, white yarn from the brand Loops and Threads, and burgundy yarn also from the brand Loops and Threads. All 3 are size 4, 100% acrylic. And although I had bright red available, I decided to go for the darker red because I thought it would look nicer and less cartoony with this color, but of course you can use whatever color shades you prefer. To make the shield, you are first going to use the blue yarn. Create a slip knot, then from the slip knot, chain 3. Also, if you are a beginner to crochet, I will link a Crocheting for Beginners video in the description box below, and that covers all of the basic stitches that I will be using for today's project. Okay, so after you have chain 3, you're going to go back into that first chain that you created and make a slip stitch through it. By doing this, you will have created a little loop. Find the hole in the center of the loop and crochet a double crochet within that hole in the center of the loop. A double crochet is yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, and yarn over through the last 2 loops. And once you are done with that double crochet, you're going to make 9 more within that same opening. In total, this first row should consist of 10 double crochets within the middle opening of the loop, and after you've crocheted your 10th double crochet, complete the row by slip stitching into the first double crochet that you made in that row. So now we're going to start on the second row, and for the second row you're going to create 2 single crochets within every double crochet stitch of the previous row. So go into the first stitch, make a single crochet, then go into that same stitch and make another single crochet within that same stitch. Then move on to the next stitch and do the exact same thing, then continue with that pattern until you reach the end of this row. After completing this row of 2 single crochets per stitch, continue on to row number 3 by making 2 single crochets in every other stitch. So 1 single crochet in a stitch, then move on to the next stitch, make 2 single crochets within that same stitch, then move on to the next stitch and create only 1 single crochet, then move on to the next stitch and create 2 single crochets within that stitch, and then move on to the next stitch and create only 1, and so on and so forth until you've completed the row. Then for row number 4 and on, I just made 1 single crochet per stitch because I noticed that the project was starting to ruffle, and when your project starts to ruffle, it's a sign that you're making too many stitches per row. So if your project starts to ruffle like mine, cut down on the number of stitches that you're making per row. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, if your project is starting to curve, then that means that you're not making enough stitches per row, so you need to increase the number of stitches that you're making. So every so often, or maybe even every other stitch, you should do 2 single crochets within that stitch and then alternate and make 1 single crochet in a stitch and then 2 single crochets in a stitch, and so on and so forth, just to increase the number of stitches per row to stop your project from curving. So just continue making row after row of single crochet by following the advice of, if it's ruffling, then make less stitches per row, and if it's curving, make more stitches per row, and then you'll be great. Just make sure that when you lie the project down flat, it actually is flat and it's not, again, either ruffling or curving, and you'll be great. So after you are satisfied with the size of your project, switch out the blue yarn with the red yarn by detaching the blue from the yarn ball, placing the red on your hook, making a chain with the remaining blue yarn on your hook as well, and then continue as normal by single crocheting your way all around the circular project. I didn't keep to an exact pattern in terms of how many single crochets per stitch per row. I just made 1 single crochet per stitch and occasionally made 2 single crochets in 1 stitch just to keep the project even and prevent it from curving. After a few rows of red, the project looked like this, pretty cool against the blue and ready for the white. So I switched out the red yarn for the white yarn in the exact same way I did the last time. Then I continued making single crochets all around the project. And again, I didn't really keep to a pattern. I would just make 1 single crochet per stitch until I saw that the project was starting to curve a little bit. Then I would make 1 row of me doing alternate, in which I would make 1 single crochet per stitch, and then in the next stitch I would make 2 single crochets in that stitch. And after that row of alternating stitches, then I would see that it wasn't really curving anymore, so then I would just move on. And that's how I made my project. And the reason I don't provide a certain number of stitches or certain number of rows is because you may want a different size purse than me, so that's why I always say that you should go by what it looks like and what you prefer, as opposed to strict numbers of stitches and rows. So yeah, just go by what you like and what you enjoy and it'll look great. Just make sure that the red and white stripes are the same size, because it would look funky if they're not. So after the white stripe was the same size as the red stripe, then I attached the red yarn again to make the final red stripe. So after you've created your second red stripe, then you are completely finished with crocheting the first portion of this project, and now we have to move on to the rest of it, which takes a very long time, but it's really easy, just time consuming. So for the rest of my project, I'm going to use blue yarn, and basically what I'm going to do is the exact same thing that I did for the first portion of this project, just without the red and white. So I'm going to make a slip knot, then chain 3, then go back into that very first stitch with a slip stitch, and then go into the center of that loop and make 10 double crochets to serve as my first row. Then for my second row, I'm going to make 2 single crochets per stitch. Then for my third row, I'm going to alternate and make 1 single crochet in a stitch, then 2 single crochets in 1 stitch, then 1 single crochet in 1 stitch, so on and so forth. Then for my fourth row and on, I'm going to play it by ear or play it by sight, and then just keep crocheting and crocheting until the project is the same size as the front portion. Then I'm going to turn around and make 2 more. In total, you should have 3 solid color circles and 1 shield design. It's going to take a while, like I said. And the reason you have so many is because we're actually going to double them up. That way your bag could be nice and sturdy. So grab 2 of your solid color circles and line them up next to each other so they're nice and even. Then from any point of either of the circles, you're going to attach yarn to it and then you're going to slip stitch all along both of the circles by first going into one stitch at the edge of one circle, then through the corresponding stitch of the other circle and slip stitching through it. And you're going to do this all around both circles until they're completely attached. And once they're completely attached, then you're going to detach the yarn from the yarn ball, and then do the exact same thing with the solid color circle and then the one that has red, white, and blue. And yeah, it should be nice and even, and most importantly, nice and stiff, because you want this bag to retain its shape even if it has items inside. The thing with crochet bags is that if they're not sturdy enough, they will look lumpy and misshapen once you actually put items in it. So that's why I would suggest to do this as opposed to just making one circle for the front and one circle for the back. That way when you actually put items in it, it won't look all weird. It'll actually stay round. Okay, so once you have finished the two solid colors, then you're going to attach the multicolored circle and the solid color circle. And once everything is nice and attached and both of them are looking good, then you need to attach all these together. And it's really easy because now all four pieces are just two pieces, so you just align them and attach them the exact same way as you did before by going through the corresponding stitches on both sides and then slip stitching through both of them, except you're actually not going to go all around because of course you need a little pouch or a little opening to put your items in it. So once that is nice and complete and looking good, it's time to actually make the straps, which is really easy, and you could of course do it any way you want. You can create a chain and then go back on that chain with a single crochet to make it a little bit thicker, or you could just keep it as a chain. Totally up to you. I prefer making my straps a little more sturdy, so I grab a bunch of yarn, just really long strands of yarn, and try my best to keep them as even as possible. And then I bring them through, all of them through the point where I want my strap to start. And I kind of make a slip knot out of them. I believe it's a slip knot. I'm not really good with knot names. But it looks like a slip knot. It reminds me of one, so I'm just going to call it a slip knot. I basically attach all of them to one side. And then once they're all nice and attached, I split the yarn into 3 sections and then I braid it. So I make a braided strap. Again, I really like my straps to be nice and sturdy, and I like the straps to be thicker than a chain because whenever I make a chain strap, the strap kind of digs into my skin, so I think that when it's thicker, it's much more comfortable. But again, totally up to you. So once I am done braiding the yarn, I attach it to the other side and make a knot. And then once I make a knot, I cut off all of the excess yarn to make the project look nice and clean. And once the project is looking nice and clean and has its strap, it's time for the finishing touch. Ah yes, the moment you have all been waiting for, or the moment that I've been waiting for. So again, I failed at making a crochet star, so I went with felt this time. So I cut out a cute little star out of white felt, and I place it on the center of the project, making sure that I aligned it perfectly, exactly how I wanted it. And then I grabbed some fabric glue and glued it on there, and I was done. So easy. But if you prefer to have this project completely crochet, then feel free to figure out how to crochet a star and then glue the crochet star in the middle, or crochet it or sew it, attach it however you want to, whatever makes you happy. And after that, you just have to figure out what you're going to do to seal the actual purse. You could either put a button or a magnet or a zipper. I already got the zipper from the store, and although this project was taking me forever, I decided to spend another 10 minutes attaching this zipper because I'm already here. I already committed, so I'm going to complete this project, and it's going to look fantastic, even though this staple here is frustrating me. I've already been here for 7 hours, but this purse is going to look fantastic. So I'm going to grab the zipper. I got this from my local craft store, and I'm going to attach it on the inside of the purse here by sewing it. So I grabbed some blue thread and a needle, and I first inserted my needle through the back side of the zipper so the first stitch doesn't show, or so the knot doesn't show. Not that it would really matter, but that's how I was taught how to sew. Always start from the back. And once I went through the zipper, I also went through the crochet purse, and then I went all along one side, then the other side of the zipper until it was all attached. And now I have a functioning zipper for my Captain America bag. Yay! And it looks so cute! Yay! I cannot express how happy I was to finally be done with this project, not only because it looks great and I was super excited to show Captain America, but because it just took me so long to make it, and I was just so happy to be done with it. It was supposed to be an easy project that I was gonna whip up really quick right before 4th of July, and it ended up taking absolutely forever and being quite disastrous in the beginning. But again, I just wanted to share that with you because I know that I get a lot of comments from people who are frustrated that some projects aren't just working out for them, and many of them say that they're just going to stop trying, and I hope that they don't. I hope that they continue, maybe even take a little break, but then come back to it, because I know that once you keep trying and trying, you're going to find a way. So with this project or any other of my tutorials or any project that you decide to take on, I hope that you persevere and that you continue doing what you love, even though it can get frustrating at times. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope that your attempt at making this Captain America purse goes very smoothly and perfectly, and that you found this tutorial easy to follow. If you're interested in other crochet bag tutorials, I have a couple more, and I also have a ton of other crochet tutorials on my channel, so please check out my channel after this video. But if you did enjoy this video, found it interesting, entertaining, or helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and also click that red subscribe button if you have not already, so I can see you next time. Bye! And happy 4th of July!